welcome back to Product Data Weekly. This is a short practical podcast where each week we break down operational issues that slow down launches, create manual work, or quietly limit growth inside product data and e-commerce teams. There's no theory, no hype, just what we actually see happening inside of catalogues at scale. I'm Claire, I'm co-founder of SKU Launch and Start With Data, and we have Ben, who is also the co-founder of Start With Data and SKU Launch. So today we wanted to talk to you about something that some people are, I love using the word flabbergasted, so I'm going to use it, flabbergasted.
Flabbergasted.
Well, my Australianism's coming out, that big businesses still run off spreadsheets. And I mean, we've done multiple campaigns and webinars and things like that. You know, I think we've done one called Break Up With Your Spreadsheets or Beyond the Spreadsheets, because obviously spreadsheets is not the best way to run your product data. But one of the things, this came out of a conversation we were talking about a prospect, and I was like, oh, what's their tech stack? And you're like, just a spreadsheet. And I mean, this business is massive, and we see this time and time again, right? We see these businesses that are able to, maybe not efficiently, but they are running their product data operations off one giant spreadsheet that Sharon could break on a Tuesday afternoon. So we wanted to kind of talk about the reasons why these businesses kind of get stuck using a spreadsheet.
We talk to so many businesses that use a PIM and they're still using loads of spreadsheets. Okay, so I would say that most businesses that have implemented a PIM end up doing a lot of work outside the PIM on big spreadsheets that they get imported and then exported and transformed as well. So it's like, you know, even with projects that are meant to take away spreadsheets, big spreadsheets, there's still a legacy. And I mean, people love a spreadsheet, right?
True.
How to use a spreadsheet.
Well, I think that is reason number one, is that everybody knows how to use a spreadsheet. It works cross-departmentally, that everybody can do it. You don't have to buy a license. You don't have to do special training. You know, there's no long support tickets if something's not working. It's just pretty straightforward. So it's that lowest common denominator that everybody knows how to do it. So it's easy.
And I think as well, like everyone's got, like Microsoft licenses, SharePoint, where you can easily go in and create spreadsheets to put product data in. So many businesses we work with have SharePoint folders and sheets and things. And it's like, it's really easy to access them, right? They just, you just kind of open it and it's there, and you open it, it's there, and it's really out of date.
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah. So I think that is one of the first points, is that everybody can use it. So it's the only tool that can fit the whole of the organization chart, really.
Well, it's the only tool that everyone knows how to use. It's like what you said at the beginning. It's the lowest common denominator tool, isn't it?
Yeah. So that is reason number one of why they get stuck using spreadsheet. Reason number two, what do you think that is?
So spreadsheets for product data management survives because they're bad, not despite it. So what that basically means is because they are inherently not very good for managing structure, schema, validation, rules, which are the actual reasons the data store is a mess in them in the first place. That's why people like using them, because they're easy to.
They don't see all the problems that there are, and they don't have to fix them.
And they don't enforce governance, right? They don't enforce governance. They don't reject entries. They don't. And then it's like, it's interesting as well. There's this whole concept of edge cases. But it's because they're so flexible and they're so inherently unvalidated. It allows you to do stuff around the sides as well, like very easy.
Yeah. Whereas an actual tool or system would reject it or make you actually choose a proper value, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
So that's number two, that it's easy to be sloppy,
Yeah,
basically.
I have a good prospect at the moment actually that sent me their full exports from their existing e-commerce system, and they sent me I asked them for a subset of their product records. I think they sent me about like maybe like 100 SKUs or something, and I'm not kidding. They sent me 22 spreadsheets, and talking of and why it was interesting because some of these spreadsheets just did very specific things about linking. You know, they had like a product spreadsheet for like the linkage of the product parent to the variant. They just had one spreadsheet for that, and then they had one spreadsheet for the linked products.
So
So it's
they're
like,
all doing a
yeah,
certain
separate
thing.
things. Yeah, and then it turns out they have to load all these spreadsheets into their systems to connect everything together. Yeah, which doesn't sound. That's probably why
Nightmare.
they're talking to us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Um,
Okay. Number three, we think that the reason why they keep it is because they think it's a cheaper alternative, but that's because they're not actually looking at the manual work, that is going into feeding it. So, yes, on paper, they're not paying a huge license fee, they're not paying huge implementation costs, but they are probably, for the size of the retailer that we were talking
mm,
about earlier in the week, they must have what, like 10 people that work on this spreadsheet that yeah, that if you actually looked at the real cost, it's just buried in the head count. So
yeah,
yeah.
totally. I mean it. Well, and this is the crux. This is always the crux of like these investment cases, isn't it? Because it's like it's very hard to measure the time the time spent in manual activities like this because they're inherently like offline. You know, they're not. There's no like tracking. There's no like systemized viewpoint of how it's used. It's just, and half the time people don't even realize it's used. And do you know the other thing I was just going to say about this? This is just the stuff you know about.
Mm.
What I find a lot in businesses is there's the official spreadsheet, and then there's all these other spreadsheets that everyone usually holding like locally on their machines. And I remember there was a client we worked with last year, and they were telling us that they all had their own versions on their individual desktops, and it was like, oh my goodness, what happens if like someone leaves the business or
Yeah.
yeah,
Mental.
so yeah, there's I always think of it as like a iceberg. Like you see the top of the pyramid of spreadsheets because that's the one that. But then actually, there's all these other things that are going on, and I reckon half of them are in like Chat GPT and Claude now. These
Yeah,
spreadsheets.
probably. Well, and actually, we do see that in, discovery calls that you'll be on with a few different people and we'll be like, oh, where does your data live? And
Yeah,
one person will say here, and then another person will say here, and then another person is
yeah.
like, okay, cool. Now we see what
Carry
the
around in a USB drive with me.
exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. And so yeah, I mean we've spoken about this many, many times about the kind of the hidden cost of doing all of this that I think we called it shadow product data.
Shadow IT.
Yeah. So and it's kind of this is a very obvious problem and that is one of the reasons why people stick to spreadsheets because it doesn't take up a budget line in the P&L, right? That's just
Yeah,
basically how
totally.
it works. Okay, and reason number four, and I was thinking about this with again somebody else that we're in a sales cycle with that has been looking at PIMS for the last 5 years
Mm-hmm.
and because we obviously implement PIMS, but it was never the right answer for their
Mm-hmm.
business.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because they couldn't prove that
Yeah.
a PIM would actually fix it. So they still run everything off spreadsheets. Like how often do you see that in these businesses that a tool just won't actually fix what they're needing it to do?
Yeah, like all the time, and um, I think a lot of the time. So it was interesting that business actually because they're a very basically businesses seem to go two different ways here. They either seem to someone comes in so often we see these systems get bought by new people that come in because they think it's the right thing to do and they never really looked at the gains from it they never really understand the process behind what goes on today, and that's how you get into a big mess, with buying a tool before understanding your process and your workflow and stuff. So they either go that way, or in the case of this other one that you're talking about, they're very risk averse about making just technology decisions like that, and that's why they've spent so, and they still can't prove the value. And they know that they were concerned that all they'd be doing is just replicating the same problems they have today, but just in a basically expensive database, right? But they're different in that they couldn't prove a PIM solved the use cases they were trying to solve. There are businesses where a PIM can fix it because it brings governance, control, single version of the truth, get everyone's USB sticks and put them into one database, But and I see a lot of time in those businesses, they can't prove the case. It's not that there isn't a case; it's just really difficult to prove. We're 10 years into PIM in the industry, and people still can't build good business cases for a PIM. And that says a lot, doesn't it? An awful lot. Yeah, so I think most of these systems are just bought on a whim, frankly. Yeah, maybe I don't know. Maybe the sales cycles go on so long, they just get so worn down. They're just like,
They just sign the
let's just
license.
buy it.
Maybe, yeah. And I wondered for bigger businesses. So, we work with massive businesses, but we also work mid-market and smaller businesses. Are you more exposed or less exposed if you're working off spreadsheets?
I mean, do you know what? I think it's more about the catalog size than the size of the business. So there's two really good examples. There's one business we worked with last year they're like a manufacturing business, and they have about 2,000 SKUs. Right now, these SKUs have a lot of attributes because obviously in manufacturing there's a lot of technical data that goes into each SKU, and there are assets and things like that. To be honest with you, that's manageable. And yes, you're still exposed because if you accidentally type an extra leading zero into a field, it could break your. We should do another podcast on that actually. Yeah, separately. Leading zeros, yeah, the bane of. But they. I don't think I don't think the margin for error is so great there versus in a very big catalogue. It's very easy to make mistakes with a big catalogue in a big spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've seen it right in our data enrichment business where we've had customers send us files from I think other people that have done data enrichment and stuff, and someone's accidentally selected the cell, dragged it along, and it's it really is down to that level, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this is a sheet with 15,000 products in it.
Yeah.
So
and I guess then there's the free flow, not having a list of values or not all of that kind of normalization and things like that is just really.
Everyone has lists of values, don't they, Claire?
Well, some do, and some have 4,000 list of values that is basically just a list of that anybody's ever made up. Yeah, that's more what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so what would for businesses who are unsure of whether or not, because I think it's more the people who think, oh my God, we're so behind, we're still running everything on a spreadsheet. I guess there's a thing of yes, it's not the ideal way of working because there are holes in that process. But what if they were at that stage and they're thinking, okay, I need to make a change? What are some steps that they kind of need to be thinking about before they just move from a spreadsheet to know if they need systemizing it is the right thing?
All of this stems into governance, right? Which is a really a word that I actually really don't like at all. But
it's got a bad rap, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But product data governance is basically locking down the structure and the structure, validation rules, definitions around each attribute. A spreadsheet can do that. You can build spreadsheets that have inherent governance and structure baked into them, and that should be the starting point in any in any prospect we work with, whether it's a PIN prospect, SKU launch, whatever, the first thing we ask them for is a dump of all of their product data. Because out of that, the first thing we do is we build a structure out of it. Until you've built a structure, as in you've defined the attributes, the taxonomy, the attribute definitions, blah, 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 all that stuff we always talk about. There is no point in then trying to go and find a system to replace it. If you don't have obscene amounts of attributes and products, then you may be able to lock down those spreadsheets in a way that they can be kind of governed and stuff. And that's the starting point, really. You have to do the model and the ownership around the product data model first, and then you might decide that a tool is just a better way of putting the data in and maintaining it,
and managing a workflow and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Good.
We always seem to come back to the same answer, don't we?
Funny that.
Taxonomy and a schema.
Right. So if you want more tips and tricks like this, you can sign up to our weekly newsletter at productdataweekly.com, and we shall see you next week. Maybe for that leading zero chat. Who knows?
Yeah, leading zeros. Have a good one. Cheers.